Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The previous speakers have talked about essentially about the upsides of this bill and this agreement, that is the expansion of particular dairy products in Hong Kong and related to that in China. They talk very little about the downside in terms of the effect on New Zealand manufacturing, which continues to be undermined by cheaper products from China because it isn't a level playing field for New Zealand manufacturers. But I want to address this question that John Hayes raised and his concern, and I'm glad he's got the concern with the sale of the Crayford farms and perhaps other dairy farms to overseas interests. In this case, we're talking about Chinese or Hong Kong interests. So we're left with the problem of, in the milk sector, in the dairy sector, of perhaps expanding the exports to China and Hong Kong, but perhaps losing the land to foreign ownership to China or Hong Kong that those dairy products come from. And if we look at the investment provisions, and they've been described by many speakers, the $100 million limit, and then under this agreement the $20 million limit, unless a dairy farm is sold for more than $100 million, it basically just goes through the system, and a high proportion of our land can be on-sold to overseas interests. We end up with our dairy farmers being tenant farmers on Chinese, Hong Kong or other overseas owners. Now, I think the Government and Labor should take note of the campaign started up by some very prominent Auckland business people to try and deal with this, and to essentially say that we should not sell our farming land in this way, and other countries don't do it. China doesn't do it itself. They only allow leasehold, and I think the very fact that quite prominent members of the business community are promoting this and getting some momentum should wake up both Labor and National. But one of the problems is under this agreement, as was explained by Russell Norman in the ratchet clauses, is that how legally, under what we've committed to in terms of these two agreements and other free trade investment agreements, how can we actually get to the result that these Auckland business people want? It's very hard to legislate without violating what's written down in the FTAs. So that is a quandary that I wish the Labor and National parties would address.
Marion Street.
Thank you, Mr.